everyone, welcome back to the journey of my YouTube channel, which has been on hiatus for a while. I have not made a video in quite a long time, but as you obviously have noticed because you're watching this video, I am back. I have returned to the journey of my YouTube channel now, and I figured that to start out this kind of, new season of my YouTube channel, I would give you a brief life update to kind of explain why I've been gone and why I'm now not gone. And as you can already see behind me, there are some new bookshelves. I am in a new place. I'm not where I used to make videos. So I will explain that and also give you a tour of these new bookshelves, which includes some new books that I have never shown on my channel before because I didn't have them before. So I think it will be really fun to just give an update on where I'm going to be making these videos from now and what kinds of plans I have for videos upcoming and all that, just getting back into YouTube stuff. So the first reason that I have not been doing YouTube for a while is that back on May 25th, I got married. In my last video or two that I made before my break, you can probably see my ring, but I didn't point it out at the time. So now there's also a wedding band on it, which there was not last time I was making videos. So I've been married for a little bit over 3 months now, and unsurprisingly, I took a break from YouTube for that. I had a lot of wedding planning to do. Of course, it was a 4-month engagement, so it was a really fast time, and I really needed to focus on wedding planning during that time and just getting ready to be married. So that's what I did, and I got married on May 25th. So that was really great, and married life has been great. I'm enjoying it a lot. Really grateful for it. And as you will notice a little bit later in the video, my husband Peter is also a reader, and that is part of why we have so many books. I'm not the only one responsible for how many books we have, although I did have even more books, so I am responsible for more than 50% of the books in this apartment. And of course, that flows right into the second life update, which is kind of part of the first life update. But I moved, of course. We're in an apartment now, so the background that you used to see behind me is no longer there. I do still have the bookshelf that you used to see in my former videos, so you'll see that again in just a minute, but it is rearranged now and it has some books on it that it did not have before. It has some new books on it. So that is a lot of fun. And then the other big update, which didn't cause me to take a YouTube break, but it caused my YouTube break to be a little bit longer than it probably would have been otherwise, is that on June 11th, I graduated from the Author Conservatory. And yes, you heard that right. Graduation was about 3 weeks after the wedding, so it was a very quick, busy, kind of hectic time, but a lot of really good stuff happening, a lot of fun. We had a week-long honeymoon, and then we had a week in the apartment, and then we were off to Chicago for my graduation ceremony. Even though the Author Conservatory is an online school, we did a graduation ceremony in person on the campus of Wheaton College. So that was really cool. I got to finish up my time in writing school, actually being at a physical school campus. So that was a lot of fun, especially since I joined the writing school in 2020. So it was going to be online anyway, but everything was online at the time. So to finish writing school with an in-person graduation and an actual location where almost all of the graduates got to be there in person was really, really neat. And then over the summer, I've been finishing up my last assignments for the Author Conservatory. So I have completed that now. I am very, very officially graduated from writing school. I am an alumni of the Author Conservatory officially. So a lot of the writing school and finishing writing school and traveling for writing school busyness that was keeping me from getting back to YouTube over the summer is now complete. So now that things are not quite as busy and wild as they were in the spring and in the summer, I am back to YouTube for now. I have some exciting ideas for what I would like to do with this channel, and I'm just looking forward to connecting with readers some more again and getting back into the reader community. I'm looking to maybe be active in some of the discords that I know are around the booktube community, where readers have some really good discussions about the books that they're reading and where they often will read books together. So I'm looking forward to just getting to know the reading community better now that I have a little bit more time to invest in that kind of thing. So those are my life updates. That's why I've been gone. That's why I'm back. And now I will give you a tour of my new bookshelves and new arrangement of the old bookshelf. All right, this is the bookshelf that you are used to seeing. This is the bookshelf that used to be behind me in my videos and that I've done tours of previously. So if you've watched my videos in the past, this probably looks pretty familiar. but there definitely have been some recent changes, as you're about to see. This shelf is pretty similar to what it was before because it is still my shelf of books that are not either fantasy or sci-fi, and the majority of my books are fantasy and sci-fi, so this is kind of my shelf for fiction books that don't fit in that category, mostly historical fiction, classics, and then all the way to contemporary at the end. And like I've done before, I arranged this by the time period when the story takes place. So I've considered doing it based on when the story was written, but to me it just seems a little bit more fun to organize them by when the story takes place. And I haven't double checked the exact years for all of these, so if they're not perfectly in order historically, then I'm sorry, I'll try to correct that at some point. I do have a couple of new books here. War and Peace, which I'm reading right now, and I've actually been really enjoying it. I know it's the most intimidating book ever, but it is worth it. I am really, really enjoying War and Peace. I should be finishing it pretty soon. And then Great Expectations, and that is another one that was a wedding present. I haven't read the book before. I've seen a movie of it, but I'm looking forward to reading the book probably when I finish War and Peace. I don't think I'll have both of those going at the same time. And then this shelf is my most subjectively organized shelf because it's basically just my favorite fantasy books, which is essentially synonymous to just favorite books in general because my favorite books are typically fantasy. I've got everything here from middle grade all the way through a bit of YA and then going up to adult. I do have some new things on this shelf, including The Art of the Wingfeather Saga, which is such a fun coffee table book. It's all about the animated show of the Wingfeather Saga and mostly just a lot of the incredible art from that turned into a book that I really enjoyed looking through, reading some behind the scenes info. It was a lot of fun. We also have Skandar and the Unicorn Thief, which I have not talked about on my channel before, but I read that earlier this year, and I just loved it to pieces. I thought it was so much fun. You may be seeing it in my top 10 of the year list. I really, really enjoyed this middle grade book. I've read books 2 and 3 in the series, so I will probably talk about that some more later. But that's just a preview of how much I enjoyed Skandar and the Unicorn Thief. We'll talk more about it later. A lot of these books you have probably seen behind me before. Then down here we have the sci-fi shelf, which also includes some other hard to categorize things like superhero stories and thrillers and time travel, things that maybe aren't as traditional sci-fi, but they fit best here anyway. It's got everything from dystopian to sci-fi fantasy to hard sci-fi and just about everything in between. And there are some new books here as well. Specifically, Jurassic Park and Timeline were Peter's books, so I have not read either of those yet, and I'm looking forward to getting to those. I mean, if they're on my shelves, I have to make time to read them, obviously. These are theoretically organized by when the story would have taken place if they were real. But I mean, they're sci-fi, so sometimes that's a little hard to determine. And also, I put the Skyward series in the middle, even though chronologically that should probably be on the end, just because I thought it looked good in the middle. They're the biggest and most colorful sci-fi books that I have, so in the middle they are. Oh, also The Blood Race is a book that I haven't talked about on my channel yet, but that's another one that I really enjoyed and that I will probably talk about in a future video because, yeah, Blood Race was really good and I really want to read the sequels to that. I enjoyed that a lot. Down here are the shelves with doors, but I don't have very many books down there anymore because we have more bookshelves now, so I don't have to put things down there as much. So a lot of the books that were down there previously, you will see on our other shelves in just a second. Here is the first of the 2 new bookshelves that I'm going to show you today, and this is the bookshelf that was Peter's originally. So I moved a lot of my books over here, obviously. We moved some of Peter's books that were on this shelf over to my shelf. So you'll see a lot of books here that you'll recognize, but also some that I did not have before. Up here is what we call our chunky fantasy shelf. Over to the left, some of these aren't super chunky, but they're mostly more adult or long or complex fantasy novels than some of the things that we put on the other shelf. And then over here to the right, they do indeed get very chunky. And several of these books on this shelf are new to me, such as The Burning. I've read Rage of Dragons. I'm reading The Fires of Vengeance right now. I haven't read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell yet, or Fairy Tale, or The Book Thief. Those were all Peter's. So I'm looking forward to reading all of those, even though they're quite long. I'm excited to read them anyway. It'll be great. Down here, we have probably the nerdiest method of organizing a bookshelf that I have ever heard of, or at least that I've ever done myself. And that is that these are organized by publisher. They are all from the same publisher. You might notice that they all have the same symbol down here at the bottom of the spine. They are all from a publisher called Enclave. And I know a lot of these authors personally. I've met a lot of them at Realm Makers, which is a writers' conference that I've been to a couple of times, and Enclave Publishing always has a large presence there, and they're a really cool company. I've gotten to meet a lot of people that work with them, and as you can see, I have quite a few of their books, so many that they got their own shelf. And within the nerdiness of organizing books that are all from the same publisher, I range it from most sci-fi over here to most fantasy over here. As you can see, there are some in the middle. There are several kind of dystopians in here. So there's kind of a spectrum of sci-fi to fantasy as you go across the shelf. And they all have really pretty shiny, colorful spines. So it just makes for a really nice shelf to look at. And then down here we have the middle grade shelf. Not that these are the only middle grade books we have, but they're kind of the middle grade books that didn't fit with any other kind of categorization. And again, we have kind of a spectrum with the historical ones, starting with the oldest time period and then coming up to modern day. We have some contemporaries and then getting into some fantasy middle grade books that didn't really fit anywhere else. We also have some younger middle grade and chapter-ish books, but those aren't on this shelf. We do also have a shelf of nonfiction books, but since I mostly talk about fiction books on my channel, we won't look at that one today. But I do have one more shelf to show you today, and it might be my favorite. Okay, this is what we call the multimedia shelf, and this one is new to both me and Peter. This shelf was a wedding present. As you can see, it also doubles as our TV stand, but obviously the books are more important, and we have a lot of them on here. The top left cubby is just movies, so I won't talk about that too much since this is a book channel, but we have a lot of books here that are either things that have been adapted, things that we have multiple series within the same world, or just a lot of books in the same series or world, or books that just kind of needed their own special display. You know, they couldn't just be on a normal bookshelf. They needed something a little extra. So first up here we have our Cosmere shelf, which, as you can see, has the core Cosmere series. It has Mistborn Era 1, it has Stormlight, and it has some other books there as well. Maybe at some point we'll get the rest of Mistborn Era 2 and flesh that out a little bit more. So we love our Cosmere books, of course. We've even read several Brandon Sanderson books beyond these, but that is our Cosmere shelf. Then down here we have our Dune and Ender's Game shelf. We have the first 3 Dune books. Those are the only ones in the series that I have, as well as the Dune movies. So this is where we start really getting into the multimedia, because we keep our Dune books and movies together. We don't have the movie, but we have seen it, and we both really liked the Ender's Game movie. I had heard some bad things about it, but it was actually quite good. And we also have 3 comic books of Ender's Game. So again, this shelf really gets very multimedia, and we start getting into the various fandom merch and also prequel series, sequel series, all that good stuff. Over here, we have our Harry Potter and Narnia shelf, which doesn't include the movies for either of these series because we don't own the movies. We have seen the movies, we like the movies, we just don't actually own them right now. For Narnia, we do have this little pamphlet over here, which is a program for the stage play of Prince Caspian. So that's pretty awesome. I didn't get to see it, sadly, but Peter did. It sounds really, really good. So that's our kind of multimedia for this shelf. Other than that, we just have the series themselves. This is all 7 Narnia books in one volume, of course, and then all of the Harry Potter books. We had space for an 8th big book, so that's why Narnia got that spot. So those are a couple more series that we wanted to highlight on this shelf. And then Wheel of Time. What are you going to do with Wheel of Time except give it its own shelf? We have been watching the Amazon Prime show of this. We Don't have it physically, of course, but we have been watching the adaptation of that. And it's probably a good thing that we don't have too much extra Wheel of Time stuff because this shelf is already full with just the books from Wheel of Time. And you can see that a couple of the books are even missing because I'm reading Lord of Chaos right now. Peter is reading New Spring. So not even all of the books are pictured here. But I've really been enjoying reading Wheel of Time, even though I'm technically in the slog right now. I am still enjoying it, having a good time with it. It is long, it is slow, but so far I have been thinking that it's worth it. So I do still like Wheel of Time, even though I've been reading it for a year now, and I am still less than half of the way through the series. So now we get to the best shelf in the house. It's our favorite. It has to be our favorite, and it is our Tolkien shelf. If you've seen my very first video that I made, or just about any of my other videos, you're probably not surprised that The Silmarillion is my favorite book of all time, and Lord of the Rings is number 2. And honestly, I could probably put some of these extra Lord of the Rings books at the number 3 spot because there is just so much good content in every Middle Earth book that I've ever read. I'm reading Unfinished Tales right now for the first time, so that's been a lot of fun. I'm getting to review some stories from the lore that I already knew and also learn some new things about the lore that I at least don't remember knowing before. If I did know it, I had forgotten it, so it's been a good refresher. We have some history of Middle Earth books, and we even get into some really nerdy stuff like The Art of Lord of the Rings, a book that goes with the Middle Earth strategy battle game, and a book of piano songs from Lord of the Rings. So we have a lot of fandom stuff for Lord of the Rings. We also have Battle for Middle Earth, the video game, which I haven't played yet, but Peter has, and we have the Lord of the Rings music box that plays the Fellowship theme when you wind it up. So we have the widest variety of stuff for Lord of the Rings, fittingly enough, since it's our favorite. But we really like this whole entire shelf. It is one of our favorite parts of the apartment, and I think rightfully so. Okay, that was my tour of our new bookshelves, and the books that I had before and where they are now, and the books that are new to me and where they are now, and how Peter and I combined a lot of our books together. We had a lot of fun organizing the bookshelves and figuring out where to put everything. So welcome to my new YouTube filming location. You can see some of the bookshelves behind me, and now you have a little bit more of an idea of how that all goes together. There are a couple of books that I wanted to highlight particularly that you probably saw briefly on the shelves. And the first one you have probably seen before if you've watched my videos, and it is Voice of the Future Volume 1, Stories of Family and Fearlessness. And I wanted to highlight this one again because if you are interested in reading my short story, People of the Rain, which is published in this book, you can actually hear that story for free now. One of my last author conservatory assignments was to build my website, which is jennygossel.com. I'll link to that in the description. And if you go to my website, you can receive an audio recording of me reading People of the Rain for free. So if you are curious about what I write as well as what I read, then you can check that out there for free. And that story can be found in this book. You can also find this book at my website. So that is Voices of the Future Volume 1. But another development that has happened since I made my last video is that there is now a Voices of the Future Volume 2, and it is called Stories of Courage and Compassion. So you probably saw this on my bookshelf as well, and 9 of my classmates have also written short stories and published them in this book. So I wanted to highlight this one as a teaser because I actually have plans to invite my classmates who wrote these stories onto my YouTube channel and talk to them about their stories, about their writing, about their experiences with this book. Similar to how I interviewed my fellow authors in Volume 1. You might have seen those videos. I will also put up a link to those so that you can find those videos easily, where I interviewed the other 8 authors of the short stories in Voices of the Future Volume 1. And I'm excited to talk to some authors from Voices of the Future Volume 2 soon. So if you are interested in hearing those interviews, then make sure to subscribe to my channel so that you will get notified when I do those interviews. And also if you sign up to get the free audio recording of me reading People of the Rain, then you will be on my email list, and then you will also know when I'm going to be talking live with some authors from Voice of the Future Volume 2. And these are my fellow conservatory students. A lot of them graduated with me in June. So they have a lot of interesting experiences to talk about. And if there are any questions that you would like me to ask them, if there are things that you would like us to talk about when we have interviews, then please go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I will make sure and bring those things up in the interview that you are interested in hearing about. As always, I would love to hear about how you organize your bookshelves, and if there are any nerdy ways that you organize your bookshelves, or if you have anything like a multimedia shelf or anything like that. I would love to hear all about it in the comments. For now, thank you for journeying with me, and I will see you next time. Bye!